Hello, we're going to finish off chapter 7 today with section 7.5 on rational equations and inverses. We have two goals for today. We want to be able to solve a rational equation, and we want to be able to find the inverse of a rational function. So let's start off with the equations. All of the rational equations that we're going to be solving today are ones that are proportions. And in order to solve a proportion, we have three steps. The first thing we're going to do is cross multiply. Then we'll solve the resulting equation. And the last thing we're going to do is check our answers. So for our first example, let's solve 2 over x plus 2 is equal to 10 over 3x plus 2. So first step, we're going to cross multiply. Okay, so we're multiplying the diagonals. So our first diagonal, we have 2 times 3x plus 2 is equal to, we're going to multiply our second diagonal, so 10 times x plus 2. And now on both sides we have a monomial, 1 term, times a binomial, 2 terms. So we can multiply that out by distributing. 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times 2 is positive 4. On this side, 10 times x is 10x, and 10 times 2 is 20. And now we're going to solve, part 2 of our process here. And this is the type of equation you've been solving since you were in Algebra 1. We want to get all of the x's on one side of the equation, all of the constants, the numbers without a variable, on the other side of the equation, and then we can finish solving for x. So in order to get all of my x's on the same side, I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. So when I do that, when I subtract 6x from the right side, all that's going to be left is the 4. On the right side, 10x minus 6x will give us 4x, and we'll still have the plus 20. And now to get all of our constants to the other side, I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. So 4 minus 20 gives me negative 16. On this side, when we subtract 20, we'll just be left with the 4x. And if negative 16 is equal to 4x, if we divide both sides by 4, we get x equals negative 4. And now we want to check our answer. And to do that, we substitute this value of x in place of every x in our original equation. So when I do that, we'll have 2 over negative 4 plus 2 is equal to 10 over 3 times negative 4 plus 2. If you have a calculator, you could put in the left side into your calculator, see what you get. Put in the right side into the calculator, see what you get. And as long as they give you the same thing, you know that this answer works. But if you don't have a calculator, you can figure this out using mental math. So if I start by checking the left-hand side here, negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2, and 2 divided by negative 2 is negative 1. On the right side, 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 12 plus 2 is negative 10. And 10 divided by negative 10 is negative 1. The two sides are equal. We know this answer works. Our solution really is x equals negative 4. Let's try another one that's a little more interesting. This time we have 2x minus 6 over x minus 6 is equal to x over x plus 2. We use the exact same 3 steps. We're going to cross multiply, we're going to solve the resulting equation, we're going to check our answers. So if we cross multiply from our first diagonal, we have 2x minus 6 times x plus 2 equals, pardon me, when we multiply our second diagonal, we have x times x minus 6. Now on this left side here, we have a binomial times a binomial. I like to use a box to multiply that out, but you could double distribute, draw your rainbows. As long as you multiply out all of the pieces, you will be just fine. So I'm going to put my 2x minus 6 down the side, the x plus 2 across the top. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 2 is 4x. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 6x. And negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. So when we multiplied out the left side, we got a 2x squared. 4x and negative 6x combines to give negative 2x. And we have that negative 12. On the right side, it's a monomial times a binomial, so we can distribute. X times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Notice that this time we didn't end up with a linear equation. We ended up with a quadratic equation, the equation that has x squareds in it. And for most of us, the easiest way to solve this is going to be to get one side equals 0 so that we can solve it by factoring. So in order to get one side equals 0, in this particular equation, I'm going to subtract x squared and add 6x to both sides. When you're getting one side to equal 0, keep in mind that it is very helpful to make sure that your x squared term ends up being positive. It's much easier to factor it that way. So watch out. You really do have your choice of whether you want to get the left side to equal 0 or to get the right side to equal 0. But try to keep that square term positive in the end. So once I've subtracted this, let's see, 2x squared minus x squared is 1x squared. Negative 2x plus 6x gives us 4x. And we still have that minus 12. And on the right side, we do have 0 now. And now we can solve this by factoring. We need a pair of numbers that multiplies to give negative 12 and adds to give positive 4. What pair of numbers would do that? Now, if you get really stuck, you're not sure, remember you can always make that organized list. So numbers that multiply to give negative 12 would be negative 1 and positive 12, positive 1 and negative 12. Let's see, the next smallest number that goes into 12 would be 2, so we could do negative 2 times 6 or positive 2 times negative 6. The next number that goes into negative 12 is going to be 3. We could do negative 3 times 4 or positive 3 times negative 4. Those are all the pairs of numbers that multiplies to give negative 12. The pair that actually adds up to positive 4, though, is right here, negative 2 and positive 6. So our factors are x minus 2 and x plus 6. And now if we set each of those factors equal to 0, x minus 2 equals 0, x plus 6 equals 0, you can solve those little equations to get your solutions. If I add 2 to both sides here, I'm going to get x equals positive 2. Here, if we subtract 6 from both sides, we get x equals negative 6. And our last step here is to check our answers. So in order to check x equals 2, if I substitute 2 into my original equation in place of all of the x's, we'd have 2 times 2 minus 6 over 2 minus 6 is equal to 2 over 2 plus 2. All right, so again, either type this into a calculator if you have one, or you have to do some mental math. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 6 is negative 2 over 2 minus 6 is negative 4. Negative 2 divided by negative 4 is positive 1/2. On this side, 2 plus 2 is 4, so I have 2 over 4, and 2 over 4 is also 1/2. Our two sides are the same, so I know this answer worked. X does equal 2. Let's check if x equals negative 6. If we substitute negative 6 in for all of